Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. This video is going to contain a breakdown of some additional news related to the game's 2.5-year anniversary, including its latest version updates. Yesterday we got a Dragalia Digest, which was extremely hype. It blew out a lot of information about our new Gala adventure, Notte, a new event, Dawn of Dragalia, that's happening for the anniversary. But afterward, we got a ton of patch notes and notice board posts as well, and that's going to be the focus of this video. There's a lot more details on what was in the digest, and there are some things that weren't revealed there at all, so I wanted to make this video to make sure you're aware of them, and also so that we can kind of walk through it together and just see what all is going on, since a lot is planned for this new anniversary milestone. Alright, so that's our plan for today. The new version update is live now. It includes the encyclopedia feature, Notte's Notes, so we'll check that out together as well. I'll share my encyclopedia progress, and I'd be very curious to get some of your impressions on that. But first, just as a reminder, you can see Xuansong is on screen now. That's just to remind you that the Echoes of Antiquity event is still running today and tomorrow. You have a chance to pick up Xuansong, who's a free welfare character for that. You can do your Nightmare dailies to get a grand bounty. You can do the Omega raids. There's still an opportunity to finish out that event before Dawn of Dragalia starts and the 2.5-year anniversary celebration really goes live. So just wanted to remind you that that is happening right now. Alright, let's go into some of these notice board posts. I'm gonna scroll through some of them and just briefly talk about them, and we'll focus in more on the ones where there's a lot of new information. So, looking at it here, everything from event information all the way up to version updates is stuff that just dropped right after the Dragalia Digest. So a ton of information. And I think we should start just by talking about scrolling through some of the basics here. So daily free Tenfolds are coming. The reminder with this is just make sure to do your free daily Tenfolds before you start syncing in your Wormite and other summoning resources. You never know, you may get the character you want off of the daily free Tenfolds, and then you can save your Wormite and summoning resources for future uses. With regards to the packs, the one reminder I really have for y'all here is that this Anniversary Diamantium pack with 1200 tends to be kind of a trap. It tends to not actually have good value. You're better off getting the Facility Upgrade Special for 960 and then just buying 300 raw Diamantium. Usually, if you do that, the cost is actually lower than if you buy the Anniversary Diamantium pack. Just something else I want to point out about that, but otherwise the Anniversary packs look really similar to ones we've got in the past, so we'll scroll through that. Something to say about the Platinum Showcase. So this looks really tempting because it only shows Xena and Chell and Leonidas in the pictures here, but if you actually read this, it says, get a closer look at some of the 5-star adventures eligible to appear. These are not all of them, so presumably this is going to include all Gala adventures, including really old ones, except it explicitly says, it's not going to have Gala Notte or any of the new characters like Miriam on it. So be careful if you're doing the Platinum. If you don't have any of the Gala adventures, or if you're risk neutral and you're willing to take a gamble on, maybe not having 3 or 4 of them, then you could do this. But remember, when you're spending Diamantium on a Platinum, you're not getting worm sigils that could be used for sparking at double the rate. So it's a trade-off, and I think the Platinum Showcase isn't for everyone. I just want to caution, if you really wanted Xena, Chell, or Leonidas, just be a little careful with that because they're not guaranteed. It's any Gala adventure on there. Another thing I want to mention here, just to throw out there, the Twitter retweet campaign is happening now, and last time we actually missed the highest milestone on that during the Persona collab, so even if you're not a Twitter user, I never was before starting my channel, it's really easy to sign up for and use. You just go on there, retweet the tweet that is sent out by the official Dragalia Lost account. It's probably their pinned tweet at the top of their page. And there's a lot of other really cool Dragalia-related content on Twitter as well, if that's something you're interested in. For example, also related to the 2.5-year anniversary, they're running a daily quiz. And I think as long as the highest percentage of answers is the correct answer on that quiz, it's going to mean good rewards for all players. So pretty cool. The first day is out today, and Leonidas asked us their quiz question. Another thing that's awesome about Twitter is If you follow the Japanese Dragalia Lost account, there's a comic series, the Dragalia Minis, where that's actually where human Midgard-Stormer's form was first revealed. So if you want to enjoy that comic series, that's a good way to do it. You can also support Dragalia Lost artists on Twitter. There's a big art community there. That's one of my favorite things about being a part of Twitter, is just really getting to enjoy and see how people bring some of these characters to life through their artwork. All in all, great stuff on there, and it's a community that I think deserves some love and recognition. They've been able to get Dragalia Lost trending on Twitter a few times, so just want to shout that out and say, like, if you're not on there, even if you're just doing it for this retweet, the rewards, there's a grand prize, but the rewards milestones are based on just number of retweets, so you're helping everybody out if you go on there and retweet for that campaign. All right, so what else can we go through pretty quickly here? So some of this is going to summarize the other information that we've talked about, like the Platinum, the Gala Dragalia. We'll talk about Gala Notte and Miriam, and the 2.5-year anniversary packs we discussed, the daily free tenfold we discussed. So as for the bonus, we saw this in the digest, but here it is if you want to take more time and look at it at your leisure. One thing they also add here is that Mini Hildy is going to be added to the Fafnir Metals Exchange, so that's really nice to see, so you can pick her up there if you don't have her from the 2nd anniversary. The raid event is coming. I want to talk more in depth about that. Here's something that wasn't in the digest, actually 2 things. First, the social reward is being reset, which means essentially 2,500 free Wormite, 50 Wormite for the first time you play with a new player, meaning any player you haven't played before this reset with in co-op. That is awesome. It's a way of encouraging players to try co-op, especially as when you first start off Dragalia, that can be kind of daunting, and a lot of the early game quests, there's not a huge pool of players trying to do co-op for those. It's a little easier to do them in solo most of the time, but when you get into like raid events, that's a great place to get this social reward because players of all skill levels are constantly doing co-op there. So for Dawn of Dragalia, that should be a good way to access these. It's free Wormite, love to see it. Champions Road Endeavor, similarly, they're basically different tasks to complete. You have a lot of time to do it, almost a month, a little bit less, and you get up to 5,000 Wormite, plus lots of other goodies that are intended to help you prepare yourself for endgame content. And last year they did this. They focused on High Midgard-Stormer and Volk's Wrath. This time they're focused on High Mercury and Ciella's Wrath. And overall, really cool to see this. One of the things that comes off of this is hundreds of hustle hammers, I think, are available through this. So definitely check it out if you've been short on those. I've read a couple comments lately saying players don't have enough of those hustle hammers. So I'm glad to see that make an appearance. And then some upgrade events are happening. So we'll click here to go into event information. I want to point out a couple things with this because it can be counterintuitive. So one, Avenue to Power triple drops is happening. That's where you get gold crystals to level up your characters. That is okay value, I think, if you really are in a pinch to level up some characters, but I do think some of the cleaning events that happen occasionally are a little bit better. We haven't gotten one of those lately, so this might be your best bet for a while, although I feel like it's not usually a pressing issue to upgrade a lot of characters. With the encyclopedia, that may change, but usually mana spiraling characters, yes, going to level 100 is valuable, but it's often the ability, the skill unlocks that have most of the power behind them, so something to point out with that. Avenue to Fortune triple rupees, probably not going to want to do this, and the main reason is we're going to get half-cost Agito and High Dragons, and that is 10 stamina on standard for 300,000 rupees. Even with the triple that you get off of this, for 15 stamina, it's less rupees per stamina, so don't do this unless you can't clear endgame content with gold Fafnirs, and probably you can clear the High Dragons on standard with gold Fafnirs. You may be surprised. If you have access to Void Dragon Bane abilities, you probably can do it. So just be a little cautious about this one. It feels like it's supposed to be the best quest for rupees, but it's really not. And even in a normal setting nowadays, we have Lilith's Encroaching Shadow, which is 15 stamina for 300,000 rupees. That's also a better rate than this triple Avenue to Fortune. So not only do we have a better rate because of 10 stamina standard high Dragon Trials and Agito, but we also have just a better rate normally with Lilith, so be careful about that. Special adventure upgrade event for every element. Sweet. It's not enough that like it's good enough rates on rainbow orbs that you want to necessarily farm this, but if you're a newer player, like just trying to level up a variety of characters, unlock mana spirals for a variety of characters rather, then this is a pretty good thing to do and just to have access to, because it gives you more flexibility in what you focus on. Double drops and half stamina events for certain main campaign quests. Chapters 1 through 10, this is great. This is a really good opportunity to get a lot of draconic essences, so you can unbind your dragons. Having max unbound dragons, even not particularly good ones, now has some relevance thanks to the encyclopedia system. So make sure that if you have some dragons that you haven't fully max unbound, you're collecting essences for them every day during this period, if they're available. And then half stamina for advanced dragon trials in the Agito Uprising, as well as half gather wings. Man, that is just a really valuable farm. This is older endgame content now that we have Sinister Dominion, but Sinister Dominion's still relatively new. A lot of players are working on Agito and even High Dragon still, so great catch-up system. Like, I'm going to use this on Prelude and Standard difficulty. Probably just Prelude, honestly, because I don't even really need rupees anymore. I just need a lot of Crimson Core. And that's dropped through both Prelude and Standard for Advanced Dragon Trials. And so I think that's my plan. Master difficulty if you want Orichalcum. That is very important. You need a lot of that for weapon bonuses. So what I did last time was I mainly farmed Master Tartarus and Kayan in co-op because they can be cheesed in less than a minute and you get a lot of Orichalcum that way. And for solo play, I did the easier difficulties just to get lots of rupees and Crimson Core. But that's available this whole duration from the 27th to the 7th, so take advantage of that. This is a good thing to spend your stockpiles of honey and ashes on for sure. And then co-op double drops. So this you're gonna have to pay attention to too. It's everything. Everything's getting a day basically. So for co-op, the half gatherwing thing, don't expect the lobbies to be active if they're not the day that it's having double drops. So this is a way that you can even further enhance and essentially quadruple your value. And for Orichalcum farming especially, that is huge. So like I would be looking at Kayan's Wrath, Tartarus' Wrath if you're doing Mitsuba strats. Otherwise, just whichever ones you're able to do easiest, Master High Dragons aren't as good for Orichalcum because you can sometimes get 0 compared to Agito, even on co-op. But if that's what you're able to do easily and you need Orichalcum, like sink your Gather Wings. A lot of people have a lot of excess ashes and it's really hard to burn them off. Just as far as like mental fortitude and being able to play that much to use them. And opportunities like this are pretty rare, so I would say this is a good chance to try get to use some of those. All right, so I think that's it for the events that are happening here. And let's see if we've missed anything else that we can kind of quickly discuss before we get into some of the bigger topics. I think that covers most of it. Yeah, I think that covers most of it. There was this other random announcement about Affliction Resistance lowering skills, that they got a slight power increase, which I'm happy to see because I do actually use these to enable Eleonora off element sometimes and actually let her do some poisoning, but otherwise a pretty unremarkable thing, just a random thing. So now we have a choice. We can talk about the version update, we can talk about the banner, and we can talk about the raid event. Those are the 3 topics I want to discuss. And I think we should start by talking about the version update. So we're going to try to scroll through some of this, but let's start with Notte's Notes. Notte's Notes is your one-stop shop for all kinds of useful information on your Dragalia Lost career. A record of every adventure and dragon in your roster is kept in the encyclopedia section, while the number of times that you've cleared a quest with adventures of certain elements, weapon types, and unit types can be found in the battle records section. Notte's Notes can be accessed from the menu book icon at the top right of the screen. It's split into 2 sections, and this is just an overview of each. So for battle records, you can see the number of cleared quests organized by element, weapon type, or unit type of the adventure used to clear it. The details are recorded here, And up to 8 adventures may be recorded having participated in a quest if it includes the team change mechanic like Sinister Dominion. In multiplayer, it's only going to include adventurers who actually enter battle. If a single team includes 2 or more instances, only the first instance is recorded. So if you have 4 flame-tuned sword-wielding units, and they're all attack units, it's only going to count for 1. So you want to diversify. If you want to try to progress through this quickly, you want to diversify the type of unit, the weapon type, and the element. For easy quests, it's pretty easy to diversify. For harder quests, you're probably not diversifying an element, but you're diversifying across the weapon types most of the time. And it's a little bit more rare to diversify it across unit types. That's something we don't even think about much. The fact that Dragalia labels units as healer, support, defense, or attack, it doesn't really come up much mechanically. This is like one of the first times it actually matters. So unfortunately, it doesn't include quests cleared before this. It doesn't include ABR, which makes sense. But I was hoping to see my history here when I reacted to the digest, but that's not really gonna happen. And then for the encyclopedia section, you can browse all the adventures and dragons who have made an appearance in the game, whether or not you have them. If you have them, they're colored in, and the ones that you don't have are gray. And you can get further information on any adventure who's registered in your encyclopedia in their individual memory section, which is cool. You can review their summoning animation, listen to voice lines, and here's the thing that surprised me. I probably shouldn't have been surprised, but the encyclopedia is more than just for show, though. You can unlock encyclopedia bonuses that boost the stats of your entire roster of adventures and dragons by fulfilling certain conditions. Each encyclopedia bonus applies to a specific element. So, when I saw Notte's notes, I was excited because I thought it was going to be like a little sassy commentary from Notte and her opinion on all the different adventures in the game or something like that was more flavorful and just like lore based. The fact that it's actual stat bonuses, I don't love it. I'm not going to lie, I don't love it because it's encouraging collection for stats and whaling for stats in a gacha game, and it's not a lot of stats, but it's like, that's kind of pernicious, and you're going to see that I have a pretty good amount of stats just coming off of this. So we'll take a look at that in a second, but you can increase the encyclopedia bonuses that apply to all adventurers or dragons of a certain element by fulfilling one of the following conditions. So for adventurers of each element, whenever you get a new adventure, you get HP and strength bonuses applied to all adventures of the same element by 0.1%. If they get to level 80, you get HP of 0.1%. If they get to level 100, which means mana spiraled, HP 0.1%. And then if they get 50 nodes, strength 0.1%, and 70 nodes, strength 0.1%. So if you have a mana spiraled character, you're getting more because I think you can get both milestones here. If you don't mana spiral them, you only get the 80 milestone and 50 node milestones. But it's one thing to have the characters, but like 50 noding and 80 and 70 noding characters is a lot of resources. That's a tier of whaling beyond myself. I do know players who have a totally maxed out collection. They promoted every unit in the game. You know, they've really done it. And I'm not there, and I've done a lot. Probably more than most players, but like that's just a lot more resources. That's like another level of whaling to think about how much Eldwater you need to promote all your characters. You need 100k if it's a 4-star character, almost, not quite 100k, but almost 100k to promote plus 50 node, and then let alone when you're talking about 70 noding, how many Champion's Testaments that is. So this is an insane amount of resources. For dragons, you get 0.1% HP and strength for registering them, and then if you fully unbind them, that's HP. If you bond 30, that's strength. So one nice thing about the dragons is the bond 30 is easier to do than fully unbinding, so at least you're getting the strength a little bit easier. Stat boost from encyclopedia bonuses took effect after the maintenance that ended on the 24th, and that adjusted players' might. And yeah, let's take a look at mine before we read on here. One thing that I want to point out, I'm not sure if the way that these stat bonuses work, I think it might just be your raw stats on the adventurer and not your stats when factoring in stuff like the Halidom. So if that's the case, it's actually a much smaller bonus, which is more in an acceptable range, but I'm honestly not sure. So maybe a commenter could help me with that. Let's check out the encyclopedia. So this is my situation here. I'm not missing that many adventures, to be frank. Like, I am missing 12. So I'm very, very lucky. But of course, I also haven't maxed out that many. I mean, I've maxed out a lot more than most, but not that many. I do promote and get to like 45 notes, and I usually stop before 50 noting. So let's just actually see which ones I'm missing. I'm missing Chelsea. I'm missing Faris and Leonidas. I'm missing Fini. And Kimono Luca, Valentine's Chelsea, Summer Tinoa, Formal Joaquim. Did I miss anyone? No, I don't think so. In Light Element, I'm missing Irene. And in Shadow, I'm missing Forte, Opera Karina, and Gala Chell. And actually, we could probably sort here. I guess we can't. In the Dream Summon, you can actually filter just down to the ones that you're missing, but I don't think you can do that here. But let's click on an adventure that we do have so we can see how some of the features work. So where is Eleanor? My first summon. So you get this cool page. You can read her adventure details here. You know, you can look and click in to see the different promotion levels. This is kind of standard stuff from the collection. And then you could just jump right to the upgrade page, or you can click on memories. And for memories, you can view the summon animation, mana circle unbound, mana circle fully unbound, quest cleared, quest failed, defeated in battle. So let's do the summon animation and throw it back to my first ever summon in Dragalia Lost. All right, I guess that's what it looked like. I have voices turned off right now, actually, since I think I turned off the voices so that players or characters walking by in the main screen wouldn't say anything while I was talking about the anniversary. So I didn't check those out just yet, but I'm sure they're really good and really lovely. So it's a cool throwback. You know, sometimes I'll summon on my phone because I have like Google Play credits or something, and I don't always get to record stuff like that. So I think that's where I ended up getting Rosarda and Galasheen and also Lapis. And so there's no record of that, but it'd be cool to, actually there is a record of it, but now I could actually show the summon animation. So if I do any summoning like that, that'll be the way I start my next videos to share that type of info. And for the dragons here, I'm missing Gabrielle and Menuetius, who are newer, Tieshan Gongju, Giovanni, Azazel. That's it, not missing too many on the dragons, actually. And now let's look at the bonuses. So these are my bonuses. And I know that in max, you can get these from 10 to 12%, depending on the element. So I'm close, like, you know, my wind's looking pretty weak here. But some of my other elements are actually pretty respectable. I guess light's pretty respectable, and water's pretty good. But they're not near the cap either. And then for dragons, this is my situation with dragons. A little bit better. I am missing a smaller amount of dragons, and in general, it's easier to sort of meet the conditions for the dragons, for the bond, and then max and bound is hard to do, but a lot of times the newest dragons are the ones you want to max and bind. Not always the case, but a lot of times new dragons are pretty good, or at least pushed enough to where they're relevant, and you know, I guess that's sort of not the case here with Gabrielle and Menuetius, so maybe not, but certainly like Arsene was a pretty powerful dragon that we've had recently. Gozu Tenno, same, and the Gala Reborn dragons are pretty good, so I guess that can vary, but yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. Having a stat system tied to collecting things this isn't the main thing I wanted from the encyclopedia. I mostly wanted like the lore and, you know, show us some of the enemies we've defeated and other stuff like that. I've thought some of those suggestions that y'all had were really cool. As for the battle records, it's a lot simpler than the statistics I was hoping to see. I was hoping some kind of Smash Ultimate style, like here's the characters you use most often, here's like all of the data. But this is a little bit more simplistic, and there are essentially milestones here in the form of epithets for completing this. So let's go back to the home page here and collect some of our epithets, and you can see stuff like raising a certain number of adventurers. Like I have raised 100 adventurers to level 80 and gotten 50 mana notes for each of them. And then for dragons, yeah, I've definitely got bond level 30 with 100 unique dragons. So I guess I get Unifier of People and Dragons, that's kind of cool, or Uniter. But all these other ones related to clearing quests with Flame Team, a Flame Adventure in your team, Water, Wind, Light, Shadow, Sword, Blade, Dagger, Axe, Lance, Bow, Wand, Staff, Manicaster, Attack, Defense, Support, Healing, all of that starts from scratch, so I don't have any of those. But that is kind of a sweet epithet, so I guess that's like the whale epithet now. I guess I'll put that on. I mean, why not? Here we go. I had Destroyer of Pleasure from Lilith. Let's throw on Uniter of People and Dragons. It does sound pretty cool. Okay. Alright, so we talked about the encyclopedia. I feel kind of mixed on it, but I like that it exists. It's cute. It finally exists. I feel like they finally got it out. Do you ever work on an assignment or a project and you've just been sinking so much time into it that you feel like you have to get it out? Like, you can't constantly revise and rework it. That's what I feel about the encyclopedia. Like, there was enough procrastination. Let's put something out there. It's not in its perfect form. We have heard that updates will come in the future. So I hope that some of those updates give us a little bit more flavor out of it too. All right, and I think some of these other changes here we'll talk about, but the Trials of the Mighty is the last big thing for the version update. A new series of quests, Trials of the Mighty, will debut on April 7th. In Trials of the Mighty, you'll be challenged to take on various bosses with a team of one or more predetermined elements and weapon types. So, predetermined weapon types is something I didn't quite capture in the digest. The predetermined elements plural is also kind of interesting. You'll see some familiar faces among the bosses, and quests will be available on standard, expert, and master varieties in both solo and co-op play. Clear these quests to earn materials for unlocking the mana spirals of certain adventurers called convictions, and devotions that are unique to each adventurer. From the daily bonus, we plan to change the available bosses and rewards from time to time. Any daily bonuses for Trials of the Mighty that you don't earn on a given day will be available to earn later. Up to 3 can be stored, so don't fret if you miss a day or two of playing. You'll start with 1 daily bonus when the quests become available, and this stock will grow incrementally by 1 every day. Cool, so they show the 3 daily bonus here, but it starts with 1 of 3 full, I guess, and that way you can skip a few days if it takes you a few days to clear this. I think that's actually a pretty smart system for doing dailies as a whole, because dailies do create the sense of artificial pressure to log in and continuously play, when a lot of times what you're logging in for is just auto battling or skip ticketing, which isn't the best as far as quality of life, but it is sort of a gotcha thing to do. So I like this system. Information about the bosses who you'll go up against, the adventurers whose mana spirals can be unlocked using materials from the daily bonus, will be provided in a separate notification. So they show Gala Prince's conviction and devotion items here. You also get Nature's Blessing and Dragon Scales from this. Sweet. I mean, one thing that you don't see is like what the might requirements or suggestions are for this. So hard to say how hard it is, but there are standard, expert, and master difficulties. We saw in the digest some of the characters. I know I saw Gala Elisanne, I think I saw Gala Ronzel, and we saw Gala Prince. I really hope Gala Cerise's in here. She is a character that obviously I went way out of my way to summon, but I don't really use her too much anymore because she just doesn't really have a lot of purpose for me as things are. I feel like she could use the mana spiral. My other big hope with this, when I had talked in the past and speculated about Gala mana spirals, I think I did this as part of my Q&A video for 10k subs, but one of my recommendations was give us some story elements within the mana spiral path, like have a few extra story segments that talk about Elisanne going from Grand Paladin to, not being a Grand Paladin, or talk about Ronzel and his confrontation with Volk. I think that would be very sweet. If that's a way of kind of like taking their Gala evolution to a next level from a flavor standpoint, because it is kind of funny to have Grand Paladin Ellie when she ended up renouncing her role in the church. So maybe that could be a way they dive into that further. Either way, Gala adventurers are pretty strong, so this could make them potentially even stronger. Maybe it balances out because of Curse of Nihility, so some of them don't currently really work that well. But still, pretty cool. I mean, more bosses is nice. I expect these to be kind of like the level of Void Battles, though, in between Void Battles and Endgame, maybe. I'm really not thinking that these are going to be super hard. I think they're just going to be more interesting as far as daily content. And some of the bosses from the story can make their appearance here. Kamui is definitely one I want to see. Otherwise, Thor, we fight in the story. Laxi is another character that's a pretty unique boss fight. So yeah, maybe throw in some of the trial bosses. This could be cool if this changes, like, every day it's a new boss, or every week, just to sort of keep it fresh and keep rotating and mixing new things in. And the weapon type and element requirements, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that this could be a way that encourages slightly more interesting team building. I mean, maybe not, because it's not going to force you to pick like a less popular character over a more popular one within a weapon and element type combination. But still, I like that aspect about it. I'm curious how they go with that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that when it comes out. And then for other changes, as more and more skills and abilities and their corresponding buffs and debuffs were added, the combat log became bloated. And so they've removed the combat log, long story short, which I'm not going to miss that much. It is helpful to test certain things on the AI, but I rarely play with it. So I understand them removing it. They're thinking about ways to include that in the future and in a less obtrusive way. The auto-unlock feature can now be used with mana spirals. Mini Hildy, as discussed earlier, is going to be added to the Fafnir Metal Exchange. We're going to get our anniversary background music. They adjusted the chairs in the tavern on the 3D home screen. Apparently, they adjusted that so that fairies can now sit in the chairs, which I thought was pretty funny. And the user interface has been adjusted in various places. Voice lines for Chthonius are being added. We saw him in the trailer for the anniversary raid event, so I suppose that is why he's appearing in and getting voice lines. Quality of life improvements. Max player level went up. Remember to be including Yuden on your teams. From what I understand, 200, the EXP you need for 200 is 40% of the way to the EXP you need for 250 or less, which is just such a grind. But I guess I'll see you in 2024 when I get to level 250. And now you can have more skip tickets, and you can skip ticket the expert difficulty and standard difficulty of these void quests, which is pretty sweet. So they address some issues, and I think that's pretty much all I have to say on the version update. Alright, so last thing here, last two things, I guess, are the raid event and Gala Dragalia. Let's start with Gala Dragalia. Miriam is apparently going to be permanent, and we have Gala, Notte, and Miriam. You're getting free summons every day on this, so just make sure to do those first. I'm probably going to make a separate video, should you summon, where I break down their kits. But should you summon? Yes, you should. You should at least do your free summons. Should you summon beyond that? Well, Ciela Legend releases tomorrow, and that is a pretty big factor in that, potentially. So that's what I'm going to have to see. Like, should you summon just because Notte is cute and Miriam is also really pretty here? I mean, maybe. I mean, that's probably what I'm going to do. But frankly, like, I think we have to see Legend Ciela. Some of the language around the strength amp I wasn't really clear on either. So I'm going to wait on this one, at least until tomorrow, to check out Ciela first before I give my thoughts on this, if nothing else. But will I be summoning? Yes, I will. Alright, so that's all I really want to say about that for today. And Notte has a lot of Dispel. I guess that's something else to say. Alright, and then Dawn of Dragalia. I'm just so excited about this. Elysium, how he ended up being didn't sit well with me. While he wasn't a true villain, he kind of had a neutral, arbiter, logic kind of vibe. I still didn't really like him at the end of the event with Ilya, the second anniversary event. And so I felt unsatisfied, or dissatisfied rather, with how that ended, and just kind of like the sad state of affairs with Mine, and how it still felt as though essentially Elysium was governor of the world and the affairs of the world, when to me it felt like the characters in the plot had the power to reckon with this powerful judgmental dragon. And so a lot of people took interesting takes on this and stances of like, Elysium isn't actually bad, he is sort of like a lawful neutral. I think of Elysium as more of a lawful evil, but I think that you could see the lawful neutral in him as well. But ultimately, I just felt like he was kind of still a villain in the way he treated Ilya, and that in shonen terms, like, there's a better way forward, right? You don't want the one extreme or the other, and you want that character self-determination. And so that's what I feel like we're going to get out of this event. Like, this is a fun comparison to make for me, and I'm not sure if everybody will be familiar with it, but Alberius kind of reminds me a lot of Minato from Naruto. And I'm not familiar with Boruto. I haven't kept up with the series. I finished with Shippuden, basically my time with Naruto, which was very instrumental in my childhood. But when I saw Alberius in the trailer for the event, I just thought, man, he's got that same kind of cool energy of Minato. And it also got me thinking, relatedly, that, you know, he kind of believes in his own vision compared to the perfect, still, desolate world of Elysium. He believes in his own vision of self-determination and harmony and coexistence, equal coexistence between humans and dragons, and that their bonds together can bring them and propel them forward more than just a mutual respect. And in Elysium's case, I think that the world he created is a hierarchical one in which dragons are above humans. And so I still think, part of me still thinks that somehow Alberius is tasked with having to seal away Elysium. And the fact that Elysium is the boss sort of points to this, of course, but I think that not only does Alberius have to seal away Mor Sayadi, which we kind of know about through the Blood Casket, but in some way he also had to sort of seal away Elysium, and that is the dawn of Dragalia. So that's kind of my prediction. And my theory is that I think that he sealed away Elysium into Uden, and that Uden is somehow a vessel or a seal in which Elysium is contained, an urn for Elysium, sort of the Wukong and Mei Wang situation. That's my theory. We know Elysium is out there in the world because he's mentioned in Mars' story, and we know Ilia and Mordecai went looking for him, but it doesn't mean that he couldn't be sealed within Uden nevertheless. So my comparison there is how Minato made it so that Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Nile-tailed fox, but he only sealed like half of the power, right? So maybe half of Elysium's power was taken away and sealed into Uden or something. I mean, I don't know. Uden wouldn't have been alive at that time. It's all a little bit wonky, but Uden could be an artificial life form or something. He could be like a Mordecai type being. I don't know. But I'm very excited about this. Like, I just want human mids, and I'm loving that he's welfare, because you're going to be able to use conviction items to fully power him. He looks like a wind bow. Seems sweet to me. Like, I think the showcase outlook is the Gala Knot plus Miriam showcase, and then probably Alberius solo showcase, with that being a prize showcase, and then we'll go from there. But I think I've rambled on enough for today, everyone. So that is going to do it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed this look at some more info about the 2.5-year anniversary, which is right around the corner. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.